I declare 2024 my year of bad art. Hello and welcome to 2024, and may it be a better year for all of us. I'm Kel and I just want to talk a little bit about my writing and art plans for the year and what went well last year, what I'm hoping to do this year, and how I might do that. Let's see how we go. Obviously, the big thing that I accomplished in 2023, which I keep forgetting about somehow, is I published a book, my third book in the Lightless Prophecy, called Memory Weave. It is my favourite in the series so far. Hopefully they keep getting better. You sort of hope that you keep getting better as an author. Here it is. If you want to read it, you will have to read Darkhaven and Everfire first, or it will make no sense. But there we go. The series is continuing. There's more books to come. I am writing them, but I have some other projects to work on first. So, other things that went well in 2023, I did a lot of drafting. I planned and drafted a sort of writing to market, which basically just means think about whether or not you can describe this book in half a sentence before you write it, unlike the Lightless Prophecy, which is, let me get back to you with an essay as to what that might actually be. This is a romantic gaslamp fantasy series currently called The Whisperers. We'll see if that name sticks. It's beautiful. It is a stunning setting with sort of like Victorian London-inspired magical city full of flowers and gardens and archways. A magical spy who is kind of disgraced and on the run, and a failed magician who got kicked out of her academy for magic pilot school. There is still a little bit of star travel in this. I can't quite get away from it, but it's because it connects to the Lightless Prophecy. So at some point there will be this wonderful convergence of all the series coming together, but it will stand on its own. You do not have to read the Lightless Prophecy to read The Whisperers. Excellent. And it should fit neatly into a genre category, which would be nice. It's been hard. It's hard not to let it balloon out because I'm also trying to keep it to a manageable size. So that is, books that are not excessively long, that take years and years to finish and edit and so on, and also three books in the series plus a prequel. That's tricky. That has put a lot of constraints on it, and I've found it really hard to stay connected to the project when I can't let it expand the way I want to. But, learning to make art under constraints is a good thing. Speaking of art, I have spent the past year doing what I call a year of art school. It was basically just a self-paced program of here's a list of things I want to work on this year. Lots of gesture drawing, lots of kind of studies of other artists, lots of learning anatomy and really just building confidence. And I have tried art school before. I've actually even studied it at university, not in a full formal art school sense, just a few units as part of my arts degree, but still, I have got some formal training, and even so, it's never stuck. I would start, and then I think it's because when you take on a big project or a massive thing, like I'm going to write a novel or learn to draw people or something like that, you're all excited at the start and you have this grand vision for where you're going to get to, and we know there's a bit in the middle, little bit, that we think we will overcome at the start, but then when we're in it, it's like rowing across a lake. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but I remember when I was a kid, we lived in a property that had a lake, as part of it. And one day my brother and I were like, we want to row across the lake. And our dad was like, that's a long way, we're like, no, we can see the other side. It'll be fine. And we started rowing, and oh my goodness, we rowed and rowed and rowed for what felt like hours and hours and hours, and we were not even halfway across the damn lake. The thing is, when you're just looking sort of from where you are to where you want to go, that can look like quite a short distance, but actually your sense of perspective is not very accurate when you've got this fixation on the end goal and you don't see the vastness of everything you've got to get across in the middle. So the point is, learning to do something difficult is a long, fraught process, and when you're in the middle of it, suddenly it's very easy to become discouraged because you look back at the shore and it doesn't look like any further away than when you started, and you're looking at the shore, at the sort of goal or the place where you're trying to get to. It doesn't really look a whole lot closer than it did when you started, and you start to sort of wonder if maybe you're never going to get there and what's the point. And as soon as you think that, I feel you're sort of fighting a losing battle. It's really important to make the goals small. So you have this overall vision, which is amazing, and you have to really sort of change your habits to make that manifest. To that end, I have this year-long plan called Art School. Don't know if you can see that. But basically, it's got every month of the year on it. I had one last year, and I didn't make it all the way through. I think I got up to June, and then because I was publishing Memory Weave through May and then to June, it got dropped a little bit. But because I still had that sheet, instead of just going, oh my goodness, there's no way I'm going to make it to the end of the year's, goals, and, I will stop. It was actually, no, I can still tick some things off. So I didn't tick off everything all the way up to December, but I continued working on it, even though I knew I wasn't going to make it to the end of the program, because I could still see a little bit of progress. I could still tick off those little boxes of things that I wanted to do that I knew would get me closer to the goal. I'm doing the same thing again this year, and what I've realised is actually that vision of getting to the other side of this shore or this lake of becoming the artist I want to be is actually an unachievable goal in some ways, partly because your vision of yourself is always shifting, and also because in many skills-based endeavors, as we level up and get better and we start seeing more in other people's work and we start admiring more in other people's work, we shift the goalposts and we move them a little bit further and further away every time, and our skill often doesn't keep up with that. Doesn't mean we're not improving, but it doesn't look like we're improving because we're not getting any closer to the goalposts. So I think having this boxes to tick off, yes, I've done the practice, is really important, because that's what counts and that's what makes you get better. So same for writing. You might just sort of look at, I'm going to write a novel this year, and good luck with that. It might happen. But if you're like, no, I'm going to sit down and write 500 words every day, well, that's something you can do. And even if it's, you miss a day, you can write 500 words tomorrow. Like, cross off the previous day, start again tomorrow, 500 words, go. And you'll have so much more by the end of the year than what you would have if you just said, this year I'm going to write a novel, and then at some point in the middle of the year it all got too hard and it got dropped. That's the plan. That's the plan. More art. My other big thing for last year was doing NaNoWriMo, which I have done for the last couple of years. This one was never going to be finished a novel in November, because I was still trying to finish Whisperer's third book, which didn't happen. And instead I started the dark fantasy gender-swapped retelling of Phantom of the Opera, which was so exciting. Really love it. I got a good chunk in. I didn't get 50,000 words, but that was fine. And I intend to keep doing that this year. I don't know if I can hit 50,000 words in a month realistically, especially not at the beginning of a project, because I like to have space to breathe and let the ideas kind of emerge. And I think at the end of a project, if it was like, okay, by November, you're going to be facing the last quarter of your novel, last half of your novel even, maybe I could probably smash out 50,000 words, because once I'm on that downhill run, if I know where all the things are going, that's fast. But up until that point, oh my goodness, the writing is slow, and trying to work on a deadline that is like, you must get 2,000 words a day does not do it for me. That is more a case of, you must sit down at your desk for 2 hours and work on this. That might do it. So, sometimes it's going to be time, sometimes it's going to be words. I declare 2024 my year of bad art. Bad art meaning art that is done. Whether it's good or bad, or whether I think it's good and somebody else disagrees, or whether I think it's terrible and somebody else thinks it's amazing, take all that away. The point this year is to make art. I'm putting a day aside for it every week, and I'm going to bring this more into my creative business, because I am an artist, and I have been working as an artist for a long time, and I've just never let myself call it that. So that's silly. This year I'm going in with more confidence, because it can be bad. This will be fun, and I will show you more of that. Alongside bad art will hopefully be some good writing, but also you make good writing by doing bad writing first, and then polishing it, or seeing what went wrong and doing it again and doing it better. And I hope to publish The Whisperers this year, at least book 1, and with the prequel, but probably, hopefully, all 3 books, because they're close-ish. I hope to continue writing One Masked Ball, and I have no idea how long that will be. It will be up for early access. You can read it as I write it in all its messy glory. Year of Make Bad Art is going to apply to this too, because I've never written a serial and released it as I write it before. So that's frightening. If you want to pay for the privilege of reading my writing as I write it, warts and all, Year of Bad Art, get it out there, because it's often not bad. And having that process exposed is so good for art. and also so inspiring for those who want to learn how to do it, or even just understand more about where it comes from, or why good art is, or any art, it has a cost. This whole concept of the tortured artist that we have, I don't know that there's a lot to it. I've written on it before. I will probably organize those thoughts into an essay at some point. So much of it is just that we're not supported for the process of what we do. We don't see the process when we're working. And so once again, we have that starting point, which is exciting, and we have that finishing point, which is what everybody will pay for. The thing is, they kind of go, well, I sort of looked at your painting, that was lovely, that occupied 5 minutes of my life, and moving on. That doesn't seem like a lot to that person, perhaps, but the hours that goes into conceiving of ideas and researching and gathering references, and we do that in any art form. Like, it's more obvious in visual art, but no, you don't write books in a vacuum. And then sort of refining those influences, drafting or sketching or thumbnailing, whatever it is that you're doing, and then continuing to make stories and make art and go through that entire thing. It takes a lot of time, and part of what put me off writing a novel for so many years was because I didn't realize how much time it took, and I never allowed for it. And the art, it just, it's not that I can't get from sketch, which I've always done sketching, to a finished polished piece. It's just that I feel like it should be quicker than it is, and it isn't. You have to put the time in. Yeah, we need to value that more. We need to show it. If people are not aware that art takes time and patience, and time, costs money, then we need to start sort of showing more of that process and going, actually, hours and hours and hours go into writing that book that someone devoured in half a day on the beach. That needs to be considered. And I know there's an economy of scale there. If we want to have a more broad and diverse and interesting range of people making art, then we need to support more people to do it. It's not about adding in factors or getting the artists or writers or whoever who are already making art to put more stuff in their art. It's about finding other people to also make art, which means we need to support more of them in a way that is viable. And they're going to sell less because now you have more of it in the marketplace, which is a good thing for diversity and breadth of experience and stylistic variation and all that stuff. But it does mean that it needs to be valued more. That's my current theory on that. The overall point of that is I am going to expose the process, which feels really hard because you feel like you're going to be judged. Like when you're putting art out, especially if you browse anywhere like Instagram or some of the art sites, people really only post polished work or those really random sketches that came out way better than they should have. And I'm guilty of that. Used to do it all the time. I wouldn't, I'd sort of be like, oh, look, this page of my journal can go in. Yes, I'm sharing my scrapbook, which is my process. But actually, that page turned out really well. And it's not that it didn't deserve to be that good. Things turn out well when you put the practice in and you start developing those skills. But it turned out really well next to a page that perhaps didn't turn out really well. I put the same amount of effort into both of them. One of them obviously is either drawing on skills that I'd put a little bit more work into, and the other one perhaps was something a little bit more new, or perhaps it was just I was tired, or it was the time of the day, or it was there's some kind of fickle art god out there who was laughing at me over my shoulder. I don't know, but the point is I would share the good page and not the bad page and then still call it sharing the process, and that's not true. Share the process, share the writing as it's being drafted, let you read it if you want to. And really start valuing the whole thing. Like, you can't sell one paperback book for, sell one of these for $100, like, unless it's some kind of, gilded special edition perhaps. But you can share more of the process, more of the time that goes into it, and bring people into that journey and the experience and make it so much bigger than just sitting down to read a novel and then going, right, well, what next? For those who are interested in that kind of ownership of the process and involvement, I am running Ream for that purpose. It makes me share more. It makes me expose the art process a little more. It gets some of those early works and ideas butted against a little bit in the sense of, other people are going to read it. So does that change how I think about what I'm putting out in draft form? Am I going to get comments from other people that might shape the work going forward? That's kind of exciting. Like, storytelling is a collaboration. That is how storytelling works. It's the very original forms of oral storytelling as an audience listening to this story grow and evolve as it's told. Whisperers, I have some secret plans for that I'll be announcing in my newsletter first. That's going to be fun. Year of process. Year of process. Year of bad art. I think that'll do. It's hot in here. 40 degrees outside. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.